I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making some almond walnut waffles. And these are really good, nutty, whole grain waffles. I made them for Sunday breakfast, and I posted a picture, and then all these people said, oh, I need the recipe, I need the recipe. So I thought, well, I'll make a YouTube video. That way everybody can get the recipe, but also there are a lot of questions about how to make oil-free whole grain waffles in a waffle iron without using oil. So we'll cover those questions too. So this is a really simple recipe. I'm using spelt flour, which is very similar to whole wheat flour. It's an ancient grain. It's a little bit nuttier. It's a little lighter actually. It has less fiber than whole wheat flour, but it has a really good flavor, a little bit more protein. A lot of times in the past, I've also used whole wheat pastry flour in the same recipe. So if you don't have spelt flour, you can use whole wheat pastry flour. Whole wheat flour is okay, but it makes it a lot stiffer. It's not quite as light, so I like to use the whole wheat pastry flour. Another thing that I'm using in this recipe is flax meal made into what you might call a flax egg. So really what I've done is I've taken a tablespoon of ground flax seed, mixed it with 3 tablespoons of water, and it's been sitting here for about 10 or 15 minutes, and so it's gelled. It's turned into this, it kind of looks like an eggy substance, and it really provides that kind of a binding agent, because in typical pancake and waffle mix, you know, there's eggs and oil and stuff like that, but in mine there isn't. So we have to have some things to replace what you would normally put in a batter, and that's where we put our flax meal made into a flax egg. And then the other thing that we'll use instead of dairy products is applesauce. It kind of takes the place of the oil as well. It gives it moisture without putting in oil. So we have that as well. But we'll start by measuring out the dry ingredients. And I have some spelt flour that I've put into my bowl, because my measuring technique is to, short of weighing things is more accurate than anything else, but if we're not gonna weigh it with a scale, then we're gonna spoon it into our cup, and then we're just gonna level off the top. We're gonna need a cup and a fourth. What we're not going to do is we're not going to do this, because when you do this and then kind of level it off, you get a lot more, believe it or not, than when you spoon it into your cup and level off the top. So it does make a difference. Trust me, I've had experiences where I used to teach private cooking lessons to people, and my students would make the baked goods back when I was making baked goods, and I would show them how to make some kind of muffin or something, and then they would make it, and then they would say, well, mine didn't come out like yours. It was really hard and tough and dry. And so then I would remind them, I would say, well, how did you measure out your flour? And they would say, well, I like to just get my canister out and scoop out my flour. Okay, I'm taking some almond flour, and I just put it into my cup, because it's almonds. It's not as critical as a flour. It doesn't develop gluten, but this is just ground up almonds. I used half a cup of that. And then I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of baking powder. I have my baking powder here and my half teaspoon measuring spoon. You know, on your baking powder canister, it has a little, like a straight edge, and that's to level off your spoon, in case you didn't know that. I'm sure you did, but things I think people know, a lot of times they'll say, no, I didn't know that. So I tell everybody, and a pinch of kosher salt, just a little. And then we're gonna put in 2 to 3 tablespoons of turbinado sugar or date sugar. So here's the date sugar. I'm getting kind of low on that. And then here's the turbinado sugar, which is a raw cane sugar. It's kind of large crystal, it's a little crunchy. I'm gonna use that today. I'm gonna go ahead and use 3 tablespoons. You don't have to make it that sweet. I kind of like it to have a little bit of the sweetness to it, but like I said, you can put date sugar in it instead of turbinado sugar. And the date sugar is just made from, I think, dehydrated dates. So it's a little bit lower sugar than turbinado sugar. Okay, and then we're also going to put our cinnamon in here. So you have the choice of using cinnamon or a cinnamon blend. This is a maple cinnamon topping blend. It's just some different kinds of things, but I'm going to use a half a teaspoon of that. It's from a company called Fresh Jax, and I really like their stuff. It tastes really good. This has organic dried maple syrup, some cinnamon, and coconut palm sugar, and a little pink salt. It has a really good flavor, so I've been using this in recipes that call for cinnamon. FreshJax.com. I have no affiliate arrangement with them. I just like their stuff and use it. They ought to hire me as a spokesperson though, as much as I use their stuff. I sent them an email one time, but a long time ago. They didn't respond. I don't care. I make the things I like, and that's it. Okay, I'm whisking it together. A lot of times in the old days, we used to use a sifter and sift everything together. Nobody does that anymore. I guess some people do, but I don't. Okay, the wet ingredients, we're going to take a cup of almond milk. I've already measured it out. Put it in my bowl here. And the almond milk that I use is this one, Califia Farms. I just like it. It has a good taste. It doesn't have odd ingredients in it. It's my everyday almond milk that I like. I'm sure there are others out there that you like too, but that's one I like. I'm going to put in a half a cup of applesauce. This is organic, unsweetened applesauce, and these little containers are half a cup. So just put the whole thing in. You don't have to measure it. I've measured it before, so take my word for it. So we'll get that in there. And then we're also going to put a tablespoon of maple syrup. And you can leave this out since we've already put turbinado sugar in there. But that's what's in my recipe, so that's what we'll do. This recipe is from a class that I did called, I think it's called Brunch Class. I do classes on Zoom. Yeah, this is like the whole ebook that I'm working on. I'm working on a breakfast ebook. I'm still in the process of making it, but this will be in the ebook. Okay, a tablespoon of maple syrup, but it was from a class. The class was called either Breakfast or Brunch Favorites. It was back in February. So I've got my spoon here that I'm going to use to stir this up, but I'm going to put my flax egg in here because I need that. And then I'm going to stir all this stuff together, my spoon. So I have everything in here. I've got the milk, applesauce, maple syrup, flax egg. I have my dry ingredients. It's a very simple recipe, not complicated at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the dry ingredients to this larger bowl. I'm just going to plop it all in here. And I'm not going to use a whisk to mix it. I'm going to use a spoon because the whisk can overmix it. We want to just fold it in because wheat flours develop gluten. So if you use a vigorous whisk to mix everything together, what you're doing is you're forming the gluten, over mixing things. That's why whenever you have recipes for batters, they'll often say gently fold things in or fold in just until combined, because you know the person that created the recipe knows that if you mix it, that you're going to create gluten, and that makes things tough. So then you end up with something that has a texture that's not pleasant. It's got a chewy, rubbery. Think about rubbery. Okay, so I have walnuts here, and I could scoop this in. This is ground up walnuts that I put in the food processor briefly. These are the walnuts I use. They're the ones you get at Costco. And I just briefly blitzed them until they were ground up, because dicing them doesn't get them small enough. So they're ground to the point where you can still tell they're walnuts. They're not made into a flour. So you can still tell they're walnuts. They're small walnut pieces, very small. And I like them that way because then you get the texture. Another version of this recipe that I have made, I've used a half a cup of granola, homemade granola. So instead of the walnuts, you can put in a half a cup of some kind of good granola. This is my homemade granola, but today I'm using the ground walnuts. And I'm going to use the granola as a topping for the waffle. Okay, so here's my batter. I'm not going to mix it to death. I'm not going to mix it anymore. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and use it. So it's all ready. My stuff is over here. I'm going to use my half cup measuring measuring cup. Move this so you can see it. I've got my waffle iron turned on. Let me angle the camera over here a little bit. Okay, so the waffle iron is turned on because it takes a while to heat up. You can't just turn it on and use it. It takes a few minutes and then it beeps, and then you know it's ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up. It's hot, and I'm going to put a little bit, like a heaping half a cup of batter in here. And I'll probably put a little bit more because my experience is to make a full waffle, you have to kind of put a generous amount in. Then I'm going to close it. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do the same thing in the other one. So what keeps this from sticking, I think I need a little bit more in there, is nothing. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back. So the batter is in. Oops. If you put too much batter in your waffle maker, it won't stay locked, and it just kind of popped up. So that means I put too much batter in here. So it's probably going to be a little bit like overflowing the sides. Don't do that when you do it, okay? But if it happens, you learn. I got a little overzealous in the amount of batter I put in here, but it's okay. It'll all work out all right. So let me tell you the tip about you're not having to oil your waffle maker. So if you have had a waffle maker, non-stick or whatever, usually they're non-stick, and you have been spraying it and using it and spraying it all along, your waffle maker is not going to make waffles unless you spray it. That's just a fact. So what I had to do was I had to go out and I had to buy a new waffle maker. My other one was kind of old anyway, so it wasn't heartbreaking. But I went out and I bought a brand new waffle maker when I started eating oil-free, and I never used anything on it, no sprays, nothing, and it's never stuck. So that is the secret, is don't ever spray it, then you'll never have to spray it. So I put the waffles in here, the waffle batter in here. I need a fork. And what happens is it will beep as soon as it's ready, and then we'll check it. But sometimes I'll have to cook it a little bit longer than than the beep, because I like it a little bit crunchier. I have seen other waffle makers that don't really have an automatic stop and go. So I ordered one that had really high ratings, and you were supposed to time it yourself. And that thing didn't work at all. It was terrible. It was a lot cheaper, but it was just a total waste of money, and I sent it back. It didn't work very well. And I ordered the same one I always had, is the Cuisinart Professional Belgian Waffle Maker, and it's in my Amazon store. I'll put the link to my Amazon store in the show notes so that you can find it if you wanted to. And it does have a temperature setting as well, and I have it on 4. So it goes from 1 to 6, and I have it on 4. And it really seems to be able to know when the waffle is done, and it will signal you when it's done. So I'm just waiting for that. In the meantime, what are we going to do when the waffle's ready? How are we going to prepare it for eating? Well, let me get a plate ready. And what we're going to do, I don't really need this little batter. Oh, and this will make about 3 waffles. So I made 2. This would make another one. And the waffles freeze really well, and they also keep well in the refrigerator. So Sunday I made the waffles. Yesterday I had a piece of waffle. It was like half of one. I put it in the toaster, like a toaster oven, put it on the toast setting, and 1 cycle of toast setting, and it was crunchy and hot and delicious. So you can have waffles for several times. To me, a half of a waffle is a serving because they're big. 1 waffle is kind of more than 1 serving of whole grains, and I kind of go with servings of whole grains and eat about 3 a day. So if I were to eat one of these whole waffles, that would be like 2 servings of whole grains. And remember, they also have nuts in them and sugar, and you know, they're not exactly the healthiest whole food, plant-based food. And you know, why do I make them if they're not healthy? Well, on Sundays, you know, it's nice to have a treat, special occasion, Christmas, brunch for Easter, you know, when everybody else is eating some special, delicious treat for breakfast. This is what I'll make for myself. I'll make a really good waffle. And then we can top the waffle with all kinds of different things. Like for example, today, let me get this open. I'm going to be using cashew yogurt, which is unsweetened. So it's kind of a little tart, but it's good. And I'll put a spoonful of that on top of the waffle. And that will help hold on some of the other things that are going to go on top, which are, you have your choice of some mixed berries. These are frozen actually, but they look really good. And then I have some fresh blueberries. So we could use fresh blueberries. And, you know, these, or strawberries. I had strawberries last night and meant to save some and didn't. And then granola. So that's going to be my toppings. Okay, so I see the light is on the top one. Here's how I'm going to check it. I'm going to open it up. And if it feels like it's sticking, you can take your fork, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm kind of taking my fork and pressing down on it a little bit as it opens up so that it stays together. It started to kind of stick on the top, but not badly. Okay, so is that done? I don't know. I think I'm going to let it go a little bit longer, and I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to turn it. And let me check on this one. This one is sitting on the top, and it's going to come off, but I'm going to let it go. Well, let's see, it's signaling that it's done, so let's take it out. See, but it's on the top, but that doesn't mean anything. We can still pull it off the top using the fork. And you know, it's not as easy as, let's say when you were able to use your oil, because you're going to have to ease it off a little bit. Sometimes the edges will stick a little bit, and so that's why I'm using my fork. Try not to burn myself. And then you just kind of ease it off. See, it came off. It looks perfect. Okay, now let's get this other one off. Same thing. Let me get another plate, because I'm only going to plate one. This one looks a little funny because I closed it up, so we'll plate it on the other side. Okay, that looks a lot better. This one's not as nice looking. Of course, that never happens to me when I'm not on camera, but this one still looks good, but this one looks better. What happened with this one is I put a little bit too much batter, so then it took longer to make, and so don't overdo the batter. Just enough is enough. So I have my beautiful waffle. Then, let me get a spoon. I'm going to spoon on some of my yogurt. I just like the taste of the yogurt. I know that may sound weird, but the unsweetened yogurt mixed with the berries tastes so good. It's that creamy taste. I'm going to put some of these blackberries. These look so good. And then I have the blueberries over there, but I'll put some of these on here too. A couple of raspberries. Fresh fruit is better. I've used all my fresh fruit in the last couple days, except for these few blueberries, which is okay. You know, frozen fruit is not bad. We'll put a strawberry in the middle. Just one strawberry. Now I've got my fresh blueberries. I'll put some of those around. I love blueberries. Eat them all the time. All right, so lots of blueberries. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, and then last but not least, not last, we'll do something else too, is we'll pour on our maple syrup. I don't use maple syrup that often, so it might be a little generous. Let me get a paper towel. I'm making a mess. And then one of the things I like to do is I make my own granola. So I like to crunch the granola. In fact, as soon as this video is over, I'm going to make some of my granola because I'm running really low. So there we go. This is the waffle with a little unsweetened cashew yogurt, some different mixed berries, some fresh blueberries, and my homemade no oil granola, which I really love. So there you go. This is the whole food plant-based no oil waffle made in the waffle iron without oil. It didn't stick, and you can do it. Use whatever flour you want. I tend to like the spelt flour, but remember you can use whole wheat flour, whole wheat pastry flour, or you could probably use other types of flour, and I think you could even get away with gluten-free flour. So whatever works for you. I hope you make the delicious waffle, and I think I'm gonna eat this. I'll probably eat half of it, give the other half to my husband. But I love these things, they are so good. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I have a website, chef-julia.com, where I have recipes and a list of my cooking classes. I do cooking classes every 2 weeks or so on Zoom. My next one is plant-based pasta coming up August 14th. So I hope you can attend that class. So thanks for following me. I do weekly Facebook Live videos called Bean of the Week and Friday Recap, where I talk about following the whole food plant-based diet every week. And I hope you can watch me and follow what I do on all social media. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you make the plant-based no oil waffles. Bye-bye for now.